it's me, MLB. Here is our bad boy Genya in the spotlight today. Let's get to it. This is Bad Boy D-Man, Genya, ex-female listener. Enjoy. Get out of here, he shouted. I don't care about you anymore. Leave. I never want to see you again. His words echoed in his ears, so loud and so intense that it woke him from his dream. With a gasp, he sat up, panting, sweat beading on his brows as he sat in his bed, looking at his hands in his lap. Why did I say it like that? Why did I do that? That was such a stupid thing to do, he thought in his mind as he went over the dream that he'd just had. It was a flashback dream. He had had it many times before. It never seemed to get any easier to replay in his mind, even though it was the same line, the same crushed look on your face. For whatever reason, it still held the same potency for him, and it had him waking in a lather of cold sweat every time. I need some water, he thought as he got up to go and get some. Life had not been easy for Genya. His father had been abusive, and then when his father finally died, he and his older brother, Sanemi, had decided to take on the roles of carer and provider for his younger brothers and sisters, as well as his mother. Life had gotten a little better then, until his mother was attacked by a demon that turned her against her own family, attacking them mercilessly until she was killed by his older brother. It was only in the more recent years that he had really understood what had happened, but at the time he had only seen his older brother had killed her. He hadn't understood that she'd been turned into a killer herself. After that, life became a bit of a blur. He was here, there, and everywhere, living in all kinds of places as he tried to find a foothold in life. During this time of wandering, he'd met you. You'd been the light in his life, a bubbly, happy, sweet girl that showed him kindness and respect even when he felt like no one else did. Although he had been known as sharp and abrasive and a bad boy, slowly he had opened up to you and told you about his past and confided in you about the future. But there was one thing he couldn't bring himself to tell you about. He worried that if you ever found out about this, you'd turn away from him, and he didn't want that. He couldn't bear if you suddenly told him you didn't love him anymore. But in a horrible twist of fate, he had suddenly been the one who had ended up saying those cursed words. You and he had been out that night. The local festival had been running for the past few days, and he had finally taken you out. It had been an amazing night. You'd eaten food, laughed together, held hands. It had really been special. But on the way back home, something suddenly changed in him, and he had yelled at you, telling you to run and that he never wanted to see you again. Hurt and confused, you'd done just that, run. And on top of that, after that day, you'd never seen him again. Genya had always been really sweet to you. Why had he suddenly said those things and then vanished? Had he really been a bad boy this whole time, like people had told you? You hadn't been able to move on from that day. That event just kept playing in your mind, and you hoped that one day you'd get to see him again and ask him that burning question. Why? Why did you do that? The next day, the yearly festival started, and with it came all of your relatives, coming in from all across the country to be involved in the fun and frivolities of the festive season. Your older male cousin came too this time. You hadn't seen him in years, and you were looking forward to catching up with him. Hey Yin, you here? He called as he stepped into the family home. Oh my god, you're finally here! You squealed, sprinting down the hallway and jumping into his arms. You've grown so much, it's been so long. And same to you, look at you. I can't rest my arm comfortably on your head now, he teased as he let you slide down his front and then rest his arm on your head. Stop it! You pouted playfully, swatting his arm off your head as he tried to put it there. He chuckled and ruffled your hair. Anyway, you're sleeping in the attic. I've just finished setting things up for you, you said brightly to him. Great, thanks, he said with a grin. I'll put my stuff down and change. Then let's go to the festival, yeah? I hear they're selling food already. I want to treat my favourite little cousin. I'll definitely take that title if it means I get food, you said excitedly. Hurry up, let's go! Genya got up off the lounge and stretched before shoving his hands into his pockets. Festival starts soon. I'll go and have a look, see what's there, he thought as he wandered to the front door and left his place. The festival setup was already well underway by the time you and your cousin got there, and you grabbed his hand excitedly. Come on, this way, I can smell the food already, you squealed with excitement. Hey now, hold on a second, your cousin chuckled. There's no rush. Yes, there is, it's food, you said with a giggle as you pulled him along. You managed to drag him to the food stall and then stood there excitedly mulling over all the options on the board and which ones you were going to get. Ooh, you hummed with delight as you bounced beside him, holding his hand. That one looks so good. You pointed to one of the items on the board. Oh, and that one too. Hey, Yin? Your cousin suddenly asked, his eyes looking elsewhere. Do you know that guy? You looked at your cousin, and then in the direction that he was looking, and to your surprise there was Genya, standing frozen in the crowd of people, just looking sadly at you. Genya? You asked softly. Genya! You let go of your cousin's hand and took a step towards him, but before you could take any more steps, he had turned and was now running away. Wait! You shouted after him. Wait! You didn't care that you looked like a loony running through the crowd. You hadn't seen Genya in years, and you still had so many questions to ask him. You couldn't let this opportunity go. Genya, wait! You shouted again, seeing him ahead, but he wasn't slowing down, until some of the festival workers were trying to raise a banner overhead, and one side let go, dropping the giant banner down and timing it perfectly as Genya dashed underneath, catching him in it as it came crumpling down. Genya! You shouted again. Get this off me! He shouted, ripping at it to try and remove it. But you had caught up by now, and as he managed to get the banner off himself, you'd grabbed onto his shirt. Let go! He shouted at you. No, I won't until you let me talk to you, please! You don't have to promise anything, or, I don't know, say anything more, but I just need to ask you one question, and then you can go. It's only one question, please. Please, Genya, you begged. Your vulnerable state subdued him, and he got up and stood there quietly with a blush on his cheeks. You were even more beautiful than he remembered. Please, you asked again, and he nodded slightly and then stepped away with you still holding on to him. You refused to let go, fearing that the second you let him go he would run off, so you weren't going to release your grip until you had your answer. Moving into an alleyway, you backed him up against a wall there and stared up into his face. He had gotten a lot taller since the last time you'd seen him, and his physique had changed too. He was no longer the scrawny little Genya that you'd known from before. Please tell me what happened that night that you broke up with me, you begged, trying to hold your emotions in check. Why did you suddenly turn on me? He looked at you with sadness in his eyes. I'm sorry, he said softly. I didn't want to tell you my secret, but I had to do something to save you. That night that we were walking home, I saw a demon. The only way I can fight one is if I eat some of its flesh. I told you to get lost and get out of there so you'd run, so I could be assured of your safety while I fought it. I never wanted to lose you. I never wanted to break up, but I was so scared and weak, and a scowl crossed his face, and he balled his fist up and whacked it against the wall behind him. I'm such a loser. You deserve that good-looking guy you're with. Wait, what? You asked with surprise, the sadness on your face turning to shock. The guy I'm with? The one now? Wait, he's my cousin. Ew. I'm not with him like that. I'm not with anyone. I've only ever wanted you, Genya, you said softly, releasing your grip on his shirt. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that out loud. I'm sorry. I'll let you go now. You answered my question. Thank you, Genya, you said with your eyes downcast, accompanied with a small bow. I wish you all the best in life. Sadly, you turned to go, but his strong hand gripped your arm, halting you in your path. You're not going to say anything about my secret? He asked with his head down. No, you said with a shake of your head. I don't understand it, but you did it to save me. How could I say anything but thank you? You asked. Genya slowly looked up at you, the relieved look on his face making you smile a little. Thank you, Genya, and goodbye, you said as you turned to go, but he wouldn't let go of your arm. You'd wait, he said softly. What is it? You asked as you looked back at him. Would you... could we... He fumbled. Start again? You asked hopefully. Yeah, he said, finally making eye contact. I'd like that, you said with a smile. Can I hug you? He asked gently, and you nodded and stepped back towards him, returning his warm embrace. You looked up into his eyes, and as you did so, he bent his head down to yours, your lips meeting in a gentle kiss. Oh, you said shyly as you pulled back. Sorry, that was... It's okay. Sorry, I just... He mumbled bashfully. You chuckled. Come and meet my cousin, at least. Let's spend the rest of the day together. It'll be fun, you added. He nodded and let you take his hand. I guess good things do happen to this bad boy demon, he thought as he let you pull him along. And there's a bit of love for our Genya. Stay tuned for next week for another Demon Slayer one-shot. I'll do one for the boys, a male listener. So if you want some boy content, then I'll see you next week.